me! I'm so scared! Why is this happening, please? I can't see! Let me go! Please, please, let me go!
The warehouse was darker than Ruby Johnson expected. Her wrists burned where the zip ties cut into her skin. The concrete floor beneath her was cold, seeping through her dress, the one she'd worn to visit the Tech Bridge school site that morning. How long ago was that? 3 hours? 4? Time had become elastic, stretching and compressing in the darkness. Mrs. Park. The voice came from somewhere behind her, accented, calm. Your husband should be here soon, assuming he values you, of course. Ruby's heart hammered against her ribs. The blindfold pressed tight against her eyes, but she could hear everything, the shuffle of feet, the distant hum of machinery, the crackle of a radio. He'll come, she said, surprised by the steadiness in her own voice. But even as she spoke the words, doubt crept in like poison through her veins. Would he? June Seo had missed her birthday dinner last month. Forgotten their anniversary the year before. When was the last time he'd chosen her over? Anything? The radio crackled. Target approaching. Silver Mercedes, 1 occupant. Ruby's breath caught. He came. June Seo came for her. Stand her up, the voice commanded. Rough hands grabbed her arms, hauled her to her feet. Her legs trembled, threatening to give out. The blindfold was ripped away, and she blinked against the sudden assault of fluorescent light. A man stood before her, mid-40s, wearing an expensive suit that seemed absurdly out of place. Mrs. Park, your husband is occupied elsewhere. What? The word came out strangled. The Mercedes isn't coming here. It's headed to Chicago General Hospital. He consulted his phone with theatrical precision. It seems Miss Kang had a small accident at a gallery opening. Twisted ankle. Nothing serious, but... He smiled, and it was the cruelest expression Ruby had ever seen. Mr. Park chose to attend to her personally. The warehouse tilted. Ruby's knees buckled, but the hands holding her kept her upright. He sent his security team for you, of course, the man continued. Very professional. They should be here in approximately 7 minutes. But I thought you should know where your husband's priorities lie. The words hit harder than any physical blow could have. Somewhere in the background, she heard new voices, shouting, the sound of doors being kicked in. The tactical team, coming to save her while her husband held another woman's hand. Ruby closed her eyes. And in that moment, in that dark warehouse with zip ties cutting her wrists and her heart breaking into pieces too small to ever put back together, Ruby Johnson made a decision. She was done. But how did Ruby Johnson get here? How did a woman who once believed in fairy tale endings find herself tied up in a warehouse, watching her marriage die in real time? To understand that, we need to go back to where it all began, 2 years earlier, on what should have been the happiest day of her life. Have you ever loved someone who couldn't love you back? Have you ever felt invisible in your own relationship? Or have you ever had to choose between staying comfortable and choosing yourself? Drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from. And please, if this story touches you, show your support by liking and sharing. You won't believe how this story ends. Now, let's rewind to 2 years ago. Ruby's fingers trembled as she adjusted her wedding dress in the mirror. The ivory silk cascaded around her like a waterfall, the beading catching the light in tiny explosions of brilliance. She looked like a princess from a fairy tale. Girl, you're glowing! Peace stood behind her, adjusting the veil with careful fingers. Her best friend since childhood, Peace had flown in from Chicago for this moment. June Seo Park is one lucky man. Ruby smiled, but something flickered in her chest. A small, nameless worry. Do you think he loves me? Are you kidding? Peace laughed. He proposed, didn't he? Nobody proposes without love. But Ruby remembered the proposal. She'd been working late, organizing files in June Seo's office as she'd done for 3 years as his executive assistant. He'd walked in, still wearing his coat, his face unreadable. Ruby, he'd said without preamble, I think we should get married. She'd stared at him, certain she'd misheard. What? You understand my work. You're intelligent, organized, and we're compatible. I think a marriage between us would be mutually beneficial. Not, I love you, not, I can't imagine my life without you. Just, mutually beneficial. But Ruby had been in love with him for 2 years by then. Hopelessly, pathetically in love with his brilliant mind, his quiet intensity. The rare moments when he'd smile at something she'd done. She'd convinced herself that he wasn't good with emotions, that love would come with time. "Yes," she'd said. "Yes, I'll marry you." Now, standing in her wedding dress, she pushed the doubt away. Tonight would be different. Tonight, after the ceremony and reception, when they were finally alone, he would show her the love she'd been waiting for. The reception was perfect. The ballroom glittered with crystal and candlelight. Jun Seo's hand was warm in hers as they danced, his movements precise and controlled. He looked devastating in his tuxedo, his dark hair swept back, his expression serious. "Are you happy?" Ruby asked softly, looking up at him. "This is a good arrangement," he replied. "You'll be an excellent partner. Not, I'm happy. Not, you look beautiful. Just, good arrangement?" Ruby's smile wavered but held. The penthouse was silent when they entered. Ruby's heart raced as Jun Seo closed the door behind them. This was it. This was when everything would change, when the wall between them would finally come down. "Jun Seo," she said softly, moving closer to him. He stepped back. The movement was small, barely perceptible, but it might as well have been a chasm. "I'm exhausted from the day," he said, not meeting her eyes. "I think I'll turn in. But," Ruby's voice trailed off, "it's our wedding night." "We have a lifetime together, Ruby. One night won't make a difference." He walked toward his bedroom. His bedroom, not theirs, she realized with a sick feeling. "Good night." The door closed with a soft click. Ruby stood alone in the living room, still wearing her wedding dress, and felt the first crack appear in her heart. 2 years later, that crack had become a chasm. Ruby woke to sunlight streaming through the windows of her bedroom. Her bedroom, not theirs. After 2 years of marriage, they still slept in separate rooms. She rolled over, checking her phone out of habit. A message from Peace. "Video call later? I need to see your face." Ruby set the phone down and stared at the ceiling. The penthouse was beautiful, all glass and steel and breathtaking views of the city. But it felt like a museum. Cold, pristine, empty. She could hear movement from Jun Seo's suite. He'd be leaving for the office soon without saying goodbye, as he did every morning. Their paths would cross at dinner, maybe, where they'd eat in silence while he reviewed reports on his tablet. This was her life. This was her marriage. Ruby's phone buzzed again. The calendar reminder, Park Innovations Acquisition Celebration, 7 p.m. Something sparked in her chest. A company celebration. A public event where she'd be on Jun Seo's arm, where he'd have to acknowledge her presence, maybe even smile at her. Maybe tonight would be different. Maybe after 2 years he would finally see her. The bathroom mirror showed a woman Ruby barely recognized. When had the light gone out of her eyes? She'd been so bright once, so full of hope and ambition. Now she looked like a beautiful ghost haunting someone else's life. She spent extra time on her appearance that evening. A red dress that hugged her curves, her hair in soft curls around her shoulders. Makeup that made her brown skin glow. When she looked in the mirror again, she saw a glimpse of the old Ruby, the one who'd believed in love and happy endings. Jun Seo came home at 6:30. Ruby heard his footsteps, the rustle of his coat being removed. She took a deep breath and walked into the living room, purse in hand, ready for the celebration. He looked up from his phone, and for just a second something flickered in his eyes. Surprise? Appreciation? But it was gone so quickly she might have imagined it. "You look nice," he said flatly. "Thank you. I'm ready whenever you are." Ruby gestured toward the door. "The celebration starts at 7. Jun Seo's expression didn't change. "I'm not going." Ruby's stomach dropped. "What?" "But it's your acquisition. Your company. They're celebrating you." "I've already sent my regrets. The executive team can handle it." He turned back to his phone. "I'm tired. It's been a long day." "It's always a long day, Jun Seo." The words came out sharper than she intended. "It's been 2 years. 2 years, and you can't even take me to one company event." "Ruby," his voice carried a warning. "Don't you want to be seen with me at all?" The question burst out, raw and dense. "I deserve to have this conversation. I deserve to know why my husband doesn't want me, why you won't even be seen in public with me." "Lower your voice." "No." She was shaking now, 2 years of silence and longing and rejection pouring out. "I won't lower my voice. I won't be quiet anymore. Tell me the truth. Is there someone else? The question hung in the air between them. Jun Seo's expression didn't change, but something shifted in his eyes. A flash of guilt so quick she almost missed it. There's no one else, he said, but the words felt hollow. I don't believe you. Ruby. I'm going to bed. She turned away, unable to look at him anymore. The beautiful red dress suddenly felt like a costume, a cruel joke. Good night, Jun Seo. She made it to her room before the tears came. Through the walls, she could hear the television turn on in the living room. He was settled in for the evening, while his company celebrated without him. While she cried alone, still wearing the dress she'd chosen to make him proud. The next evening, Peace's face filled the video call screen. Okay, what's wrong? And don't say nothing because I can see it all over. Your face! Ruby was sitting on her bed, knees pulled to her chest. It's Jun Seo. What did he do? Nothing. That's the problem. He does nothing. We've been married 2 years, Peace. 2 years. And we've never... She couldn't finish the sentence. Wait. Peace's eyes widened. You mean you still haven't... Not once. Not even on our wedding night. Girl. Peace leaned closer to the camera. That's not normal. That's not even close to normal. I know. Have you talked to him about it? Last night. He just shut down. Said he was tired. Ruby laughed bitterly. He's always tired, or busy, or traveling. There's always a reason. Peace was quiet for a moment. Ruby, I'm going to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. Are you happy? The question hit like a punch to the gut. I don't know anymore. That's not an answer. No, Ruby whispered. No, I'm not happy. I'm lonely, Peace. I'm so lonely I could scream. But I love him. And I keep thinking that if I just try harder, if I'm patient enough, he'll finally what? Love you back. Peace's voice was gentle but firm. Baby, you can't make someone love you, and you definitely can't love someone enough for both of you. What am I supposed to do? You need to figure out what's really going on, because this... Peace gestured at the screen, at Ruby's miserable face. This isn't a marriage. This is torture. After they hung up, Ruby sat in the dark for a long time. Peace was right. She needed answers. She found herself in Jun Seo's home office without consciously deciding to go there. It was late, nearly midnight. Jun Seo was still at work, as usual. The office was immaculate, like everything in his life. Organized, controlled, impenetrable. Ruby wasn't looking for anything specific. Maybe she just wanted to feel closer to him somehow, to understand the man she'd married. She sat in his chair, ran her fingers over his desk. A drawer was slightly open. She shouldn't. She knew she shouldn't. But her hand was already reaching for it, pulling it wider. Inside were the usual things, pens, notepads, business cards, and in the back, a phone she didn't recognize. Ruby's pulse quickened as she picked it up. It wasn't locked. Or rather, it unlocked with a pattern she remembered Jun Seo using, a pattern she'd seen him tap on his other devices. She drew the pattern. The password was accepted. The phone came to life and Ruby's heart stopped. Photos. Hundreds of them. Maybe thousands. All of the same woman. She was beautiful, delicate features, long dark hair, an elegant grace in every image. Some photos were clearly screenshots from social media. Others looked like they'd been taken secretly. The woman laughing at a cafe, reading in a park, walking down a street. Ruby's hands shook as she scrolled. The photos went back years. Some were dated from before Ruby had even started working for Jun Seo. And then she found the family photos. Old ones, printed and scanned. A teenage girl standing next to a teenage Jun Seo. His arm around her shoulders. His eyes on her face with an intensity that made Ruby's stomach turn. She clicked on the phone's contact information for the woman. The name made Ruby's blood run cold. Stella Kang. Ruby knew that name. She'd seen it on documents, heard it mentioned in passing. Jun Seo's stepsister. His father had married Stella's mother when Jun Seo was 15, and Stella was 13. Ruby's mind raced. She pulled out her own phone, did a search. Found Stella's social media easily. Fashion buyer. Currently in Paris. Beautiful. Sophisticated. Everything Ruby wasn't. And Jun Seo had been obsessed with her for over a decade. Ruby set both phones down carefully, like they might explode. She walked out of the office, down the hall, into her own room. She closed the door and locked it. Then she sank to the floor and let herself break. The crying lasted hours. When it finally stopped, Ruby felt hollow, emptied out, but beneath the numbness, something else was growing. Understanding. And with understanding came a terrible clarity. Jun Seo had never loved her. The marriage was never real. She'd been convenient, available, safe. She'd been a way for him to stop himself from wanting someone he couldn't have. Ruby was not a wife. She was a human shield. The thought should have destroyed her. Instead, it made something shift inside her chest. A tiny flicker of anger. Of self-preservation. She didn't sleep that night. By morning, she'd made a decision. She wouldn't confront him yet. She would watch. Wait. And figure out what the hell she was going to do with her life. 3 days later, Jun Seo made an announcement over breakfast. "Stella is coming back from Paris," he said, not looking up from his tablet. "She'll be staying with us for a while." Ruby's coffee cup froze halfway to her lips. "Staying here?" "Yes. She's looking for a place in the city, but in the meantime she'll use the guest suite." "And you didn't think to ask me first?" Jun Seo finally looked at her, his expression cool. "It's my home too, Ruby." "It's our home, I'm your wife." "And she's family." Family. The word was a knife between Ruby's ribs. "When does she arrive?" Ruby asked, proud of how steady her voice remained. "Tomorrow afternoon. I'll pick her up from the airport." Of course he would. Ruby watched from the penthouse window as the car pulled up. Jun Seo got out first, moving with unusual quickness. Then the door opened, and Stella emerged. She was even more beautiful in person. Petite and graceful, wearing an effortlessly chic outfit that probably cost more than Ruby's entire wardrobe. And the way Jun Seo looked at her. Ruby's breath caught. She'd never seen that expression on her husband's face. Warmth, joy, life. He carried her bags. He touched her arm. He smiled. For Stella, he smiled. Ruby turned away from the window before they came up. She positioned herself in the living room, arranging her expression into something calm and welcoming. She would not give them the satisfaction of seeing her fall apart. The elevator dinged. Voices floated in. Jun Seo's deeper tones mixed with Stella's musical laughter. They entered the penthouse and Ruby stood. "Ruby," Jun Seo said, "you remember Stella?" "Of course." Ruby extended her hand. "Welcome." Stella took it, her grip surprisingly strong. "The famous wife. Jun Seo's told me so little about you." She smiled, and the expression didn't reach her eyes. "Isn't that funny? We used to tell each other everything." "People change," Ruby said evenly. "Do they?" Stella tilted her head. "I wonder." The next few hours were a study in torture. Jun Seo gave Stella the full tour of the penthouse, including rooms he'd never bothered to show Ruby. They reminisced about childhood memories, spoke in Korean when they thought Ruby wasn't listening, shared jokes Ruby couldn't begin to understand. And through it all, Ruby smiled, nodded, played the gracious hostess. But inside, she was screaming. That night, Ruby lay in her bed and stared at the ceiling. Through the walls, she could hear voices, Jun Seo and Stella in the living room, talking late into the night. She'd never heard Jun Seo talk so much. Ruby grabbed her phone and called Peace. "It's midnight," Peace answered groggily. "This better be good. His stepsister is here. She's staying in our home." There was a pause. His what? Stepsister. The woman from all those photos, she's here, and Peace. Ruby's voice cracked. The way he looks at her. He's never looked at me like that. "Oh, honey. What do I do?" "You pack a bag and get the hell out of there." "I can't. I don't have anywhere to go. I don't have anything that's mine. I gave up everything for him, my job, my apartment, my independence. Everything I have, he gave me." "Then you take it back," Peace said fiercely. "You hear me? You take your life back. Because what you're describing, that's not love. That's not even respect. That's prison." But the door to Ruby's cage was locked from the outside, and she didn't have the key. It took 3 days for the first real betrayal. Ruby woke to find Jun Seo in the kitchen, already unusual, making coffee. For 2 people. He didn't look up when she entered. "Good morning," Ruby said. Morning. Making breakfast? Stella has a morning meeting. I'm helping her prepare. Of course. Ruby poured her own coffee in silence. Also, Junseo said, still not looking at her. Stella is going to need the master suite. The guest room isn't ideal for extended stays. Ruby's hand stilled on the coffee pot. The master suite. Yes. That's our bedroom, Junseo. My bedroom. We don't use it together anyway, he said, echoing the words he'd thrown at her months ago. You can take the guest suite in the east wing. It's just as comfortable. Are you serious right now? Ruby, don't be difficult about this. Difficult? She set down her cup with deliberate care. You're asking me to move out of my bedroom so your stepsister... She's family. I'm your wife. The words exploded out of her. Doesn't that mean anything to you? Keep your voice down, Junseo hissed, glancing toward the hallway. You'll wake her. The way he said her, protective, tender, broke something in Ruby's chest. You're choosing her, Ruby said quietly. Over me, your wife. It's just a bedroom. No, it's not, and you know it. Junseo's jaw tightened. This conversation is over. I expect you to move your things by this evening. He walked out, carrying the coffee he'd made, for Stella, and left Ruby standing alone in the kitchen. She moved her things that afternoon. Every piece of clothing, every personal item, relocated from the master suite to the smaller guest room. It felt like a physical manifestation of her diminishing existence in this house, in this marriage, in his life. The second betrayal came a week later. Ruby had spent 8 months developing the Tech Bridge initiative. It was her baby, a program providing tablets and coding education to underserved schools in Chicago, her hometown. She'd worked with administrators, secured funding, developed curriculum. The board presentation was scheduled for Friday. On Wednesday, Junseo called her into his office. I've made a decision about Tech Bridge, he said without preamble. Pride bloomed in Ruby's chest. Finally, recognition. I'm so glad you're taking interest in it. I think when the board sees, Stella will be presenting it. The words didn't make sense. I'm sorry? Stella has fashion industry contacts that could be valuable, and she has a natural charisma that will appeal to the board. She'll present Tech Bridge on Friday. Ruby stared at him. That's my project. I created it. I've been working on it for 8 months. And you'll continue working on it. You'll support Stella in the presentation. Support her? Ruby's voice rose. Junseo, this is insane. She doesn't know anything about Tech Bridge. She just got here. She's been reviewing your materials. She's very impressed with the work. My work. Our work, Junseo corrected. Park Innovation's work. You'll brief her fully, and she'll present to the board. That's final. Ruby wanted to scream, to throw something, to make him see how completely wrong this was. But she recognized that look on his face. Cold, decided, immovable. Is there anything else? She asked through numb lips. No, please send Stella your presentation materials by end of day. Ruby stood, walked to the door, turned back. Do you even remember? She asked quietly. Remember what? That I'm a person, that I have feelings, that I exist for any reason other than making your life easier. When he didn't answer, she nodded. I didn't think so. Friday's board presentation was agony. Stella wore a stunning outfit, obviously new, obviously expensive. She smiled at the board members with practiced charm, and she presented Ruby's work, using Ruby's research, Ruby's data, Ruby's words, like it was her own brilliant idea. Ruby sat in the back of the room and watched her life's work be stolen. Afterward, board members congratulated Stella. Junseo stood beside her, proud. Ruby might as well have been invisible. That was wonderful, Catherine Kang, Stella's mother, gushed. She'd attended as a guest. You're so talented, darling. Thank you, Mom. Stella smiled. Then her gaze slid to Ruby, and something dark flickered in her eyes. Victory. Ruby excused herself, found a bathroom, locked the door, and cried until there was nothing left. The third betrayal came at the family dinner. James Park's estate was a sprawling mansion in the suburbs. Ruby had been there once before, shortly after the wedding. James had been polite but distant. Catherine had been warmer, but clearly uncomfortable. Now they were all gathered around the formal dining table, James at the head, Junseo and Ruby on one side, Stella and Catherine on the other. The tension was thick enough to choke on. So, James said, cutting into his steak with precise movements. Stella, how long do you plan to stay with Junseo and Ruby? Oh, as long as they'll have me. Stella laughed. It's so nice being back home. I'd forgotten how much I missed it. Missed. She looked at Junseo. Everything. Junseo's expression didn't change, but Ruby saw his hand tighten on his fork. You should get your own place, Catherine said nervously. Give the newlyweds their space. Are they newlyweds? Stella asked innocently. It's been 2 years, hasn't it? Stella, James said warningly. Catherine continued. I was just thinking. It must be strange, living with your brother and his wife. Except Junseo isn't really my brother, is he? Not by blood. His father married my mother. But we're not related. Not actually, Stella replied excitedly. The air in the room crystallized. When Junseo and I finally go to Jeju together, Stella continued, then caught herself with a little gasp. Oh, was I not supposed to mention that? The silence was deafening. Ruby looked at Junseo, waiting for him to correct her. To say something, anything, he said nothing. Stella, that's inappropriate, James snapped. I'm sorry. But Stella didn't look sorry. She looked triumphant. Catherine turned to Ruby with genuine distress in her eyes. My dear, I'm so sorry. Stella sometimes forgets. It's fine, Ruby said automatically, even though it wasn't. Even though she felt like she was dying inside. The dinner continued, but Ruby barely tasted the food. She was too busy watching Junseo and Stella exchange glances across the table. Too busy seeing what everyone else clearly already knew. After dinner, Catherine approached Ruby in the hallway. I really am sorry, she said softly. This situation. It's complicated. Everyone seems to know about it except me, Ruby said and walked away. That night, Ruby couldn't sleep. She lay in her small guest room, the room she'd been exiled to, and tried to process everything. Junseo was in love with Stella. Everyone knew. Everyone had always known. Around midnight, she heard voices. She slipped out of bed, moved quietly down the hallway toward Junseo's study. The door was cracked open, light spilling into the darkness. Came back for you, Stella was saying. I've been waiting, Junseo. I've always been waiting. We can't. Junseo's voice was strained in a way Ruby had never heard. Society, family, everything says it's wrong. Your father isn't my father. There's no blood between us. We're adults. We can do what we want for another woman. She should move, should do something. But her body wouldn't respond. That's why I married Ruby, Junseo continued, his voice breaking. To stop this. To stop wanting you because it's wrong, because everyone would judge us, because you're a coward, Stella finished. You always have been. But I'm not, and sooner or later you're going to have to choose. Her or me. Safety or passion. Half a life or something real. Ruby didn't wait to hear more. She walked back to her room on silent feet, closed the door, and locked it. Then she did something she hadn't done in months. She pulled out her laptop and updated her resume. If Junseo wouldn't choose her, she would choose herself. Ruby was at the Tech Bridge pilot school in the South Side when it happened. She'd gone without telling Junseo, reclaiming the small piece of her work that Stella hadn't stolen. The kids had been excited to see the new tablets, their faces lighting up as they explored the coding programs. Ms. Johnson, I made a game! A little girl named Jasmine shouted. Ruby was bending down to look at the screen when her phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Ruby Johnson Park? The voice was professional, clipped. Yes? I need you to come outside, now, alone. If you alert anyone, there will be consequences. Ruby's blood ran cold. Who is this? Outside, now. The call ended. Ruby's hands shook as she made her excuses to the teacher. Emergency, I'll be right back, and walked outside. A black van sat at the curb, engine running. The side door slid open. Get in, Mrs. Park. I don't... Someone grabbed her from behind. A hand over her mouth, another arm around her waist. She was lifted off her feet, shoved into the van. The door slammed. The vehicle was moving before she could process what had happened. A cloth was pressed to her face, something sweet and chemical. Ruby struggled, but her limbs were growing heavy. The world tilted sideways. Everything went dark. She woke on the cold concrete. Her head throbbed. Her wrists were bound. A blindfold covered her eyes. Ah, she's awake. Ruby tried to focus through the panic. What do you want? Your husband has something we need. He'll bring it to us. In exchange, you get to go home safely. The voice was calm, almost friendly. Simple. Who are you? Business competitors. Park Innovations has something valuable. We intend to acquire it. Jun Seo won't give it up for you? The man laughed. We'll see. The codes to his new AI algorithm should be worth one wife, assuming he values you. The doubt in those last words made Ruby's stomach twist. Would Jun Seo come? Or would he send someone else to deal with this inconvenience? Time became elastic. Ruby tried to track it, count seconds, minutes, but it was impossible in the darkness. She heard the men talking, radios crackling. Someone brought her water, held the bottle to her lips. Not unkind, just professional. Your husband is very successful, the friendly voice said. Must be nice living in that penthouse. It's not what you think, Ruby said without meaning to. No, tell me, Mrs. Park. What's it like being married to a genius? Lonely. The word surprised her. But once it was out, she couldn't take it back. Lonely, the man repeated. Interesting, you have everything money can buy, and you're lonely. Money doesn't fix everything. No, I suppose it doesn't. He paused. I'm almost sorry to use you like this. You seem nice. But business is business. He won't come, Ruby found herself saying. He'll send security. He'll handle it remotely, but he won't come himself. Why not? Because I don't matter. Not to him. Not really. That's a sad thing to believe about your husband. It's true. The radio crackled. Ruby's heart jumped. Target approaching, a voice reported. Silver Mercedes, one occupant. For a moment, one blazing, hopeful moment, Ruby thought she'd been wrong. He was coming. Jun Seo was coming for her. Then, wait, he's turning. He's not coming here. What? The Mercedes is heading back toward Chicago General Hospital. Ruby's hope shattered like glass. Why would he? The friendly voice started. Then his phone buzzed. He answered it, listened. When he spoke again, there was something like pity in his tone. Ah, Miss Kang had an accident. At a gallery. Twisted ankle. Your husband is going to her. The words barely registered. Ruby felt outside her own body, floating somewhere above the cold concrete and the darkness and the breaking of her heart. He sent his tactical team, the man continued. Very professional of him. They'll be here in approximately 7 minutes. You'll be fine, Mrs. Park. Physically, at least. He paused. I really am sorry. For what it's worth. Ruby didn't respond. Couldn't respond. Because there was nothing to say. Jun Seo had chosen. And once again, he hadn't chosen her. She heard new sounds, doors crashing open, shouting, professional voices calling clear. The blindfold was removed. The zip ties were cut. Someone wrapped a blanket around her shoulders, and a man knelt in front of her. Korean features, warm dark eyes, expensive suit under a tactical vest. Ruby? He said. Ruby Johnson? She blinked at him, trying to focus. I'm Rion, he said gently. Rion Williams. I don't know if you remember me. We grew up in Chicago, Ruby finished, memory flooding back. You moved away sophomore year. Yeah. He smiled. I never forgot you. Come on, let's get you out of here. He helped her stand, kept a steady hand on her arm as they walked out of the warehouse. The tactical team was efficient, professional. They'd clearly done this before. Where's Jun Seo? One of them asked Rion quietly. With the stepsister, Rion replied, and there was edge in his voice. We handle this ourselves. Outside, the fresh air hit Ruby like a physical force. She gulped it in, legs shaking. Hospital? Rion asked. Yeah, Ruby managed. He drove her himself. Didn't make small talk. Didn't push. Just stayed close, steady, present in a way Ruby had forgotten another person could be. The hospital was too bright, too loud. Doctors checked her over. Minor dehydration. Some bruising. Shock. They wanted to keep her overnight for observation. Rion stayed, pulled up a chair beside her bed and refused to leave. You don't have to, Ruby said. I know, I want to. Why? He looked at her for a long moment. Because I've been tracking these guys for months. A corporate espionage ring targeting tech companies. I'm a venture capitalist now, and one of my portfolio companies was hit by them last year. I've been working with federal investigators to bring them down. So you just happened to be there? Ruby asked, disbelief creeping into her voice. Not exactly. Rion leaned back in his chair. When they grabbed you this morning, their communications got picked up by the surveillance we had on them. I saw the name, Ruby Johnson, married to Junseo Park. I couldn't believe it was you. The girl I used to know in Chicago, now married to one of the biggest tech CEOs in the country. He paused, his jaw tightening. I contacted Park Innovations immediately. Told them I had intel on the kidnapper's location. That's when I learned he'd sent his security team to handle it remotely while he went to the hospital for... He shook his head. For a twisted ankle. Ruby's breath hitched. I couldn't just let the tactical team go in alone, Rion continued. Not when I knew it was you. So I coordinated with them, went in with the rescue. And when I saw you there, tied up, hurt. His voice softened. I knew I had to make sure you were really okay, that you got out safely. You don't even know me anymore. I know enough. His voice was soft. I know you deserved better than what happened today. And I know the girl I grew up with. Smart, kind, always helping others. She deserved a husband who would move heaven and earth to save her. Not one who sent others to do it. Ruby's eyes burned, but she refused to cry. She'd cried enough. Tell me about Chicago, she said instead. What happened after you moved? So Rion talked, and Ruby listened. And slowly the numbness began to recede, replaced by something she hadn't felt in 2 years. Human connection. Junseo arrived 4 hours later. Ruby heard his voice in the hallway, sharp, demanding. Then he was in the room, his eyes finding hers. Ruby, thank God! He moved toward her, but Rion stood, blocking his path. She's been through enough, Rion said quietly. I'm her husband. Are you? Rion's voice had steel in it. Because from where I'm standing, a husband would have been at that warehouse. A husband wouldn't have chosen someone else's twisted ankle over his wife's kidnapping. Junseo's face went white. You don't understand the situation. I understand perfectly. Rion stepped aside. But it's her choice. He looked at Ruby, and she nodded. Rion sat back down, but stayed close. Ready. Ruby, Junseo said. He sounded shaken, uncertain, emotions she'd never heard from him. I was so worried. I'm so sorry, I should have... You went to Stella. Ruby's voice was flat, emotionless. They told me. Your security team told me you chose her. She was hurt. I was kidnapped. The words exploded out. I was grabbed off the street, tied up, held in a warehouse by criminals who wanted to use me against you. My life was in danger. And you went to check on your stepsister's sprained ankle. I knew the team would handle it. That's not the point. Ruby's hands shook. The point is that you didn't come. You didn't choose me. Again, you never choose me. Ruby, please, I want a divorce. The words hung in the air. Junseo stared at her like she'd spoken in a foreign language. You're in shock, he said. You don't mean that. I've never meant anything more in my life. Ruby's voice was steady now, certain. I'm done, Junseo. I'm done pretending this is a marriage. I'm done being invisible in my own life. I'm done loving someone who will never love me back. I do love you. No, she cut him off. You don't. You love Stella. Everyone knows it. I know it. I heard you tell her. And I'm not going to spend the rest of my life being your shield against your own desires. Ruby! Send the divorce papers to my lawyer. Don't contact me. Don't call. Don't... Her voice finally cracked. Just let me go. I won't. You don't have a choice. Ruby looked at Rion, who stood immediately. Can you take me somewhere? Anywhere but here? Already got a place in mind, Rion said. He helped her out of bed, wrapped the hospital blanket around her shoulders. Come on. They walked past Junseo, who stood frozen, processing. At the door, Ruby paused and looked back. I hope it was worth it, she said softly. I hope she was worth the cost. Because you just lost the only person who ever really loved you. Then she walked out, and she didn't look back. The divorce papers were drawn up within 48 hours. Ruby asked for nothing. No alimony, no assets, no piece of the life they'd built together. She just wanted freedom. Junseo called. She didn't answer. He texted. She didn't reply him. He showed up at Rion's condo where she was staying. She refused to see him. "Ruby, please," he said through the door. "We need to talk." "There's nothing to talk about," she called back. "Sign the papers." "I'm not signing them." "Then I'll file without your signature. It'll take longer, but I'll do it." Silence. Then, "I made a mistake." "You made a choice. Now live with it." She heard him leave, heard his footsteps retreat down the hallway, and felt nothing but relief. 1 week later, Ruby was on a plane to Chicago. Rion had offered her a position at Williams Venture Capital. She'd be focusing on funding for Black and African women-led tech startups, the kind of work she'd always dreamed of doing. "Are you sure?" she'd asked him. "You don't owe me anything." "I'm not offering out of obligation," Rion had replied. "I'm offering because you're brilliant, and you deserve a chance to actually use that brilliance. Also," he'd smiled, "I missed you. I know that sounds crazy after all these years, but it's true, and maybe this is our second chance." "I'm not ready for that," Ruby had said honestly. "For anything like that. I need to figure out who I am outside of being Junseo's wife. I can wait." And unlike Junseo, Rion seemed to mean it. Chicago welcomed Ruby home like a long-lost daughter. The city felt alive in a way the sterile penthouse never had. Rion gave her space in his office building, her own floor, her own team, her own vision. For the first time in 2 years, Ruby felt like herself. She started small, reached out to old contacts from TechBridge, connected with entrepreneurs who needed funding. Slowly, carefully, she built something real. And she didn't think about Junseo. Or when she did, it hurt less each time. Meanwhile, in the penthouse, Junseo was falling apart. He'd expected Ruby to crack, to call, to come back. Women always came back in his experience. They forgave, they tried harder, they gave him another chance. But Ruby didn't. Week 1, denial. She'd change her mind. This was temporary. Week 2, anger. He hired a private investigator, found out she was in Chicago, with Rion Williams, photos of them at business dinners, laughing together. Junseo's jealousy was a physical thing, burning in his chest. Week 3, bargaining. He sent flowers, gifts, letters. Everything came back unopened. Week 4, depression. He stopped sleeping, stopped eating properly, threw himself into work, but it felt hollow. The board meeting happened 1 month after Ruby's departure. "Mr. Park," James said, his face grave. "The kidnapping incident has come to light. Your choice to prioritize Miss Kang over your wife during a crisis has caused significant concern among the board and our investors." "That's a private matter," Junseo said. "It became public when the media got hold of it. Tech CEO abandons kidnapped wife for stepsister." "Those are direct quotes from news articles, Junseo. Our stock price has dropped 12%. We'll recover." "That's not the point." James leaned forward. "You've embarrassed this company. You've embarrassed this family. And you've shown a fundamental lack of judgment. The board has voted." Junseo's blood ran cold. "Voted on what?" "You're being removed as CEO, effective immediately." The world tilted. "You can't." "We can. We have. James Park will serve as interim CEO while we search for your replacement. This is my company. I built it from nothing. And you destroyed your credibility in 1 night." James stood. "Clean out your office. Security will escort you out." Junseo looked around the table, saw the faces of people he'd worked with for years, saw condemnation, disappointment, pity. "You're making a mistake," he said. "No," James replied. "You already made it." And through the company's saga, Stella was there, available, willing, the thing he'd supposedly wanted for years, finally within reach. But when she touched him, he felt nothing. "What's wrong?" she asked, one night, hurt in her voice. "I don't know," Junseo lied. But he did know. He wanted Ruby. Had always wanted Ruby. Had been so busy hiding from his uncomfortable feelings for Stella that he'd destroyed the real thing when he'd had it. "You're thinking about her," Stella said, "even now, even with me here. I'm sorry. I waited years for you, Junseo. Years. And now that I'm here, you don't want me anymore." She laughed bitterly. "That's poetic. Cruel, but poetic." "Stella, if you're not CEO, what's the point?" she asked suddenly. "What?" "I wanted Junseo Park, the powerful CEO, the man who built an empire. But if you're just this, She gestured at him, hollow, broken. Then what am I doing here? You said you loved me. Love? Stella shook her head. I wanted what you represented. Power, status, the forbidden fruit. But the fruit's rotten now, Junseo, and I don't want it anymore. She left for Paris the next day, and she never came back. 6 months later, Ruby was the keynote speaker at the Chicago Tech Summit. She'd built something remarkable in that time. Her fund had invested in 12 companies, all led by women of color. TechBridge had expanded to 15 school districts. She'd been featured in Forbes, TechCrunch, Business Insider. And she was happy. Really, genuinely happy. Rion was there in the audience, of course. Their relationship had progressed slowly, carefully. They were dating now, real dating, with conversations and laughter and genuine connection. No rushing, no pressure, just two people getting to know each other. Ruby walked onto the stage to thunderous applause. She wore a gold dress that made her skin glow, her natural hair in a stunning crown of curls. She looked powerful, confident, free. And then she saw him. Junseo, sitting in the back of the auditorium, thin, haggard, wearing a suit that looked expensive but hung on him wrong. Ruby faltered for just a moment. Then she lifted her chin and began her speech. When I started this fund, she said, I was coming out of the darkest period of my life. I had given up everything, my career, my independence, my sense of self, for someone who didn't value any of it. And I thought that was love. I thought sacrifice meant love. She paused, letting the words sink in. But real love doesn't ask you to disappear. Real love doesn't ask you to be less than you are. Real love sees you, really sees you, and chooses you anyway. Every day. Even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. The audience was riveted. Ruby continued, talking about her journey, her fund, her vision for the future. She didn't look at Junseo again, didn't need to. When she finished, the applause was deafening. People rushed the stage, wanting to talk to her, work with her, be part of what she was building. And then a voice cut through the noise. Ruby, please. She turned. Junseo stood at the edge of the stage, security trying to pull him back. Ruby, please, we need to talk. The room went silent. People were pulling out phones, recording. This was going to be everywhere. Ruby looked at Rion, who had materialized at her side. He nodded. Her choice. Backstage, she said quietly. 5 minutes. The room backstage was small and private. Junseo paced while Ruby stood still, arms crossed. Rion leaned against the door, a silent guardian. Say what you came to say, Ruby told Junseo. I was wrong. The words tumbled out. About everything. About Stella. About you. About what I wanted. I made a terrible mistake, and I've been paying for it every day since you left. Good. He flinched. I love you, Ruby. I know you don't believe me, but I do. I was confused. Stella was this childhood obsession, this forbidden thing I'd built up in my head. But you were real. You were everything good in my life, and I destroyed it. Yes, Ruby said. You did. I'll do anything. Junseo moved closer. Counseling, time, whatever you need, just give me another chance. No. The word was simple. Final. Ruby. You married me to cage yourself, she said. To stop yourself from wanting her. You used me. And when it actually mattered, when I needed you, you chose her. You will always choose her. Or the memory of her. Or the idea of her. But you will never choose me. That's not true. You chose her when my life was in danger. Ruby cut him off. That tells me everything I need to know. I was stupid. Panicked. I didn't think... Exactly. You didn't think about me. You never think about me, because in your mind I was never really real. I was just a convenient solution to your problem. I love you, Junseo said desperately. I'll change. I promise I'll... I already changed. Ruby's voice was firm. I found myself again. I remembered who I was before I tried to be what you wanted. And that person? She doesn't need you. Ruby, please. I hope you heal, she said, and she meant it. I hope you figure out what you actually want instead of running from it. I hope you find happiness. She paused, but not with me. Rion pushed off from the door, came to stand beside Ruby. His hand found hers naturally, easily. Junseo saw it. Understanding and devastation crossed his face. We're building something, Ruby said. Slowly, carefully, something real, something I want. He can't give you what I can. He already has, Ruby interrupted. He sees me, he chose me, he puts me first. Every single day he chooses me, and that's something you never did. Junseo looked between them, broken, lost. I'm sorry, he said finally. I'm so sorry. I know. Ruby's voice softened just slightly. But sorry isn't enough. It was never going to be enough. She squeezed Rion's hand. Come on, people are waiting. They walked past Junseo toward the door. Ruby's hand was on the handle when Junseo spoke one last time. I'll never stop loving you. Ruby paused, looked back. And for the first time since the warehouse, she felt something like pity. That's your choice to make, she said, but it doesn't change mine. Goodbye, Junseo. She walked out, and this time it was forever. The gala for TechBridge Foundation was a glittering success. 500 guests, celebrity endorsements, and $50 million in funding secured. Ruby's dream had become reality. She wore a stunning gown, emerald green that made her skin glow, and smiled for the cameras. Rion stood beside her, proud and supportive in his tuxedo. You did it, he murmured in her ear. You actually did it. We did it, she corrected. I couldn't have done this without you. Yes, you could have. He smiled, but I'm glad you didn't have to. After the speeches and presentations, Rion pulled Ruby aside to a private balcony overlooking the city. Chicago sparkled below them, alive and brilliant. I have something to say, Rion started. Oh no, Ruby teased. That sounds serious. It is, but hopefully good serious. He took her, hands. Ruby, this past year with you has been the best of my life. Getting to know you again, watching you build this incredible foundation, being part of your journey, it's been an honor. Rion, let me finish. He smiled. You're the strongest, smartest, most brilliant woman I've ever known. You've taken everything life threw at you and turned it into something beautiful. And I want to be part of that. Not because you need me, I know you don't, but because I choose you, every day, and I want to keep choosing you. He pulled out a small box. Ruby's breath caught. This isn't about completing you, Rion continued. You're already whole. This is about building something together, as equals, as partners, as two people who choose each other, every single day. He opened the box, revealing a stunning ring. Will you marry me? Tears spilled down Ruby's cheeks, but they were happy tears, healing tears. Yes, she whispered, but slowly, on my terms. Always on your terms, Rion promised. He slid the ring onto her finger, and they kissed as the city lights twinkled around them. Inside, Ruby's phone buzzed. An email. From Junseo. Subject. I'm sorry, Ruby. I know you've moved on. I know I have no right to contact you. But I wanted you to know that I've been in therapy, really working on myself. I've lost everything. The company, the respect, the future I thought I'd have. But losing you was the worst part. I understand now what I did. How I used you. How I destroyed the best thing in my life because I was too cowardly to face my own feelings. You deserved so much better. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even want a response. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry. And that you were right about everything. I hope you're happy. I hope you found what you deserve. Goodbye, Ruby. Junseo, Ruby read the first line. Then she deleted the email without reading the rest. She closed her phone, slipped it into her clutch, and took Rion's hand. Everything, okay? He asked. Everything's perfect, she said, and meant it. They walked back into the gala together. A young girl approached Ruby. Couldn't have been more than 10, wearing a TechBridge t-shirt. Ms. Johnson? The girl said shyly. I just wanted to say thank you. Because of you, I'm learning to code, and I'm going to build apps that help people like me. Ruby knelt down, looked the girl in the eyes. What's your name? Jasmine. The same girl from the pilot school. Jasmine, you're going to do amazing things. I believe in you. Can I take a picture with you? Of course. As Jasmine's mother snapped the photo, Ruby smiled, genuinely, freely. This was her life now. This was her purpose. Helping others, building something meaningful, choosing herself. And for the first time in years, Ruby Johnson was exactly where she was meant to be. Far across the city, Jun Seo Park sat alone in his small apartment. The space was nothing like the penthouse, just a modest one-bedroom in a building that had seen better days. The furniture was basic. The view was of a parking lot. But it was all he could afford now. He'd read the news about Ruby's gala, seen the photos of her smiling with Rion, watched her success from a distance like a ghost observing life from the other side. His father had replaced him. The board had voted unanimously. Jun Seo now worked as a consultant for smaller tech firms. Respectable work, but a far cry from running an empire. Stella had married someone else within months of leaving. A French financier with old money and European charm. She'd sent no wedding invitation. No goodbye. She'd simply vanished from his life as completely as she'd entered it. The penthouse had been sold to pay debts and settlements. The car was gone. The staff, the luxury, the power, all of it, gone. Everything he'd built had crumbled because of choices he'd made, because he'd been too cowardly to face his own heart. And Ruby, beautiful, brilliant, extraordinary, Ruby, had built a new life from the ashes of the one he'd destroyed. She'd risen like a phoenix while he'd crashed and burned. The end. If this story touched you, please show your support by liking, sharing, and subscribing. Your engagement helps me bring more stories like this to people who need to hear them. And remember, you deserve to be someone's first choice. Every single time. Never settle for less.